Transamerica, I like talking about this topic a lot because Transamerica is off to a record year. We are on track, the last numbers I saw, to pay out probably about $400 million in commissions to WFG. Will help well over 100,000 families together. And I just think that that's something that is really, really special, where you can have an industry like this where you're so rewarded by helping families, and you can help your own in the same way. Now, we've talked the last 2 weeks about understanding an introduction to Transamerica's products. We talked a little bit about how to run illustrations. And so once you've sat down with a client and they know what type of solution they want, you got the yes, you ran the illustration, you've done all the hard work. The job's not done just yet. Right? We want you to be able to fill out that application, to have it sent in good order, to make for a really, really smooth and streamlined underwriting process. So tonight, we're going to go over a little bit about that underwriting process and what you can do as a field underwriter, a representative of the company, in order to set yourself up for success, to get your client approved as quickly and as possible. We'll talk about how to fill out our electronic application, where you can find that. We will talk about what to expect during the underwriting process, how to set yourself up for success by giving the client the right type of expectations. This in an effort so that your client's policy gets approved and you get paid faster. Everything starts with field underwriting. And I've worked with Transamerica for 11 years now. And I'll tell you, the field underwriting is probably the most overlooked part of your business that is really just crucial. Field underwriting, for those of you who don't know, is the process by which you get to know the client. It's where you ask them these health questions and you act as a representative of Transamerica. We want you to be observant. We want you to set realistic expectations with the client. I've got a lot of resources, and we're going to show you where you can find the underwriting guide. The underwriting guide is really, really helpful. It tells you how you can approach kind of delicate subjects, or what happens if my client has diabetes? How do we handle that? So you can, again, kind of set these realistic expectations for your clients. I was working with someone earlier, and they were telling me, Will, how do I know what risk class my client is going to qualify for? And I would say you find that out during the underwriting process. And you, as the field underwriter, are the first step. So when my client says, hey, I have a history of diabetes, well, that's okay. We can potentially work with that. But I want to set very realistic expectations. Someone with a history of diabetes doesn't qualify at preferred elite. So you know what? We're going to send in this application at standard, because that's what our underwriting guide instructs me to do. By me doing the field underwriting process, I set the right expectations for my client from the very beginning, rather than maybe wait for Transamerica to tell me down the road, oh, your client with the history of diabetes, they're never going to qualify at this rate that you submitted it at. Well, we're going to offer them standard. Now it almost sounds like bad news versus you setting yourself up for success. So by doing the field underwriting, you're going to expedite the process. When we get information from you, it means that we don't have to go back to the client and ask them more and more questions. So when it comes in the right way, things move quicker. You're going to meet your client's expectations, right? Because you've set the right standard. We get policies issued a lot faster. And ultimately, the conditional receipt is more likely to be binding, which can be really important. That underwriting guide that I mentioned, I highly recommend that you take a look at it. You save it to your computer. I know a lot of people who have printed it off, even though it's quite large. The underwriting guide can be found at transamerica.com. agent dash central. So it's under the product section. You'll be able to find the underwriting guide. It is a wealth of information. Our inbound sales team gets about 500 calls a day. And a lot of those calls that we get are agents who ask underwriting questions, which you're more than welcome to call us, but it's kind of a waste of your time if you could find out that information in this guide. So things like, how do I determine coverage amounts? Well, my client, he makes $50,000 a year and he's got a couple of children and he wants $1 million policy. Can he qualify for $1 million policy? Right? And how do I know what's the maximum amount of coverage he can qualify for? Well, we have that guide. It's based on his income at certain ages. We have a guide for that. What about, well, my client, they're here on an I-10. They just have an I-10, no social security card. Can we take them? Well, yeah, we can. We've got some boundaries, right? We've got some requirements, a number of years they've been here in the U.S. But yeah, we could take I-10 clients. Well, my client is 6'3", and he's just a large guy, but he's in pretty good health. But he's 6'3", 300 pounds. Can we take him? Right? We've got the build charts for it. We've got things about their family health history, every medical condition under the sun. So a lot of really, really good information that you can find through that underwriting guide. I highly recommend that you save that. It's got tips, tricks, again, kind of delicate subjects. Will, my client, history of marijuana use, right? It's legal here in this state. It's not legal in that state. I don't know, how do you guys handle it? He's really healthy, but regular marijuana use. Yeah, we can take it. So again, kind of consult with the underwriting guide. It's going to help make your life a lot easier, help you minimize the amount of times that you need to call Transamerica. When we submit an application, most of the cases that come in, you're going to see are underwritten non-medically. This is the part of the reason why field underwriting is just so crucial. The information that you provide on the application, we want to just take that information and use that to make our decision as to whether or not we can insure the individual. We don't want to have to perform any extra tests. We don't want to have to get their doctor involved and get records. We want to use that information. So that's part of why it's so crucial that you provide accurate and complete information. Non-medical underwriting is the process by which we look at the client and we don't need to use labs or a paramed exam where an examiner physically sees them. About 83% of our applications fall within our non-medical limits. So this means that my client is between the age of 18 and 55, and they're applying up to $1 million, or they're between 18 and 45, and they're applying for up to $1 million. Or I'm sorry, $2 million. So up to the age of 45, $2 million, up to the age of 55, $1 million. When we do non-medical underwriting, it does not mean that your client is guaranteed to be approved, right? It's not auto issue. It just means that we're going to do everything that we can to ensure them to approve the case at our best possible rates, preferred elite, long-term care rider, you name it. We're going to do everything that we can to do so without needing medical work done, a doctor's records, anything like that. Now, it's not to say that if your client maybe has a complicated health history, that some of those things might not be required. We use what's called fast data. So when you send in the application, let the client know. Transamerica uses electronic data that's available. They're going to see things like, your driving record. We're going to see things like your prescription history. We're going to see things like whether or not you've been approved or denied by other life insurance companies. So we find all this fast electronic data, and hopefully we can make a decision based on that. On average, this process takes anywhere from I would say a week to 5 weeks. So remember, set yourself up for success, right? Don't have every single client thinking my case is going to be approved in 2 or 3 days. Nope. Takes anywhere from 1 week to 5 weeks. Well, that's a really wide range. Why can it take 1 week or 5 weeks? Well, sometimes we get an application and we do have some questions. Hey, this client, he's got a long history of high blood pressure. We need to talk to the doctor and see if that high blood pressure is pretty well maintained. Or look, there's some complicated medications that they've been prescribed, and we just want to know a little bit more about the details. Client has a history of cancer. They're cancer-free for 10 years. It's really important that we know what type of cancer it was, what the course of treatment was, what the current prognosis is. So that's why things maybe fall closer to the 5 week than the 1 week is if there are complications. So we want you to set yourself up for success. We want you to know what to expect. When you send in the application, hopefully you get an approval really quick. What happens if you don't? Well, the underwriter might ask you some questions. You'll get an email, you'll see it on our portals, but they might ask you things like, hey, can you verify the client's doctor who treated them for congestive heart failure? We found a prescription here for metformin. Can you tell us why the client is taking metformin? We might ask you questions. We may also order some examinations, right? Things like a medical exam where a paramed examiner goes to the client's house, or where we ask for some lab work, some blood, urine samples. We might ask for a telephone interview if it's an older client, just to see how their cognitive function is. If any of these exams are required, we're going to let you know every step of the way, but we're also going to reach out to the client directly and we will schedule with them. So we'll schedule with the client. You want to do everything you can to stay in the loop. We'll tell you everything that we can and keep you informed. What will slow down the process, and just something for you to be aware of, if you see a requirement that is for an attending physician statement, that means we're looking for the doctor's notes, the doctor's records. Again, my client has a history of cancer. They're cancer-free for 10 years. We can take those type of people, but we want to know how the cancer was diagnosed, how it was treated, what the current prognosis is. We reach out to the doctor's office. We pay the doctor's office. We ask them to send us the records. Sometimes they send them to us really quickly. Sometimes they send them very slowly. So we do everything we can. We call them regularly. We ask them to expedite it. I've seen APSs that come over with over 100 pages of medical records. So we have to go through those, and we do our best to use that to make a determination on whether or not we can approve the individual. Any information that comes through on the application from like a third party, like their doctor, or maybe through some of our database searches, any information is strictly confidential, right? It's between the life insurance company and the insured. There is even some information that we are not able to disclose to the agent, right? So there will be times where we say, hey, sorry, but the client was declined and it's due to confidential information. And unfortunately, we can't share it to you. We can mail it over to the client. We can talk to them about it. But this all is very, very confidential. In that effort, we encourage you to let the client know it's confidential. And the more transparent they can be, the easier the process will be. So the more you let us know, the easier it's going to go. I had a case recently, and the client was in their early 20s, and they did not have a driver's license. And so when they filled out the application, they didn't put a driver's license number down. And so when they sent it in, the first question underwriting had was, why does the client not have a driver's license? And the agent called me and she said, well, does the client have to have a driver's license? I didn't know this was required. And I said, no, absolutely not. What's going on? We looked at the case. Well, the client lived in, I think it was Chicago, and they were young. They were going to school. They've never had a car. They've never driven. They take public transit, and there was no need for them to ever have a driver's license. Well, that's A-okay. But when underwriting sees no driver's license number, they think, oh, the reason the client doesn't have a driver's license is because they probably are trying to hide it from us. Maybe they got their driver's license suspended. Maybe they have too many speeding tickets. Maybe they got a DUI. So all that the agent needed to do was to fill out the information and say, the client lives in Chicago, they take public transportation, they don't have a driver's license number, they don't plan on getting their driver's license anytime soon. Case got approved like that. But I bring this up to say, hey, the more transparent you are, the more information you give us, the easier the process will go, right? We want the client to be approved. We want to move on to that next application. When it comes to submitting your application, you have a couple of different options. You can send in an electronic application, or you can send in a paper application. I highly recommend the electronic application. You can do it on your tablet, your laptop. I think you could probably do it on your phone. We use a system called iGo. You're going to find it on mywfg.com. It's in the top right-hand corner. If you go to the toolbox, it'll say iGo eApp. You should be able to launch it there. From iGo, again, it's from mywfg. It'll sign you right into it. You're going to select that you want to start a new case. When I click start a new case, it's going to ask me for the proposed insured's information: name, date of birth, gender, age, what state they're in, what kind of product they want. I'm going to select whichever one I'm looking for, say the FFIUL in the state of Florida, and then I'm going to continue. And you'll notice that as I continue, I'm asked to fill out all of the client's information that we can get, right? I need to know their name. I need their address. I need what type of policy they want, how much coverage, what are they going to be paying on a monthly basis, any riders that you need. We're going to ask that you ask questions about maybe risky activities. When was the last time you were in the hospital, right? Has it been in the last 5 years? Really, really basic kind of questions. As you move through the application, you're going to get a green check mark once the information is complete. So you can see here, I've got green checks for the proposed insured, for the coverage and riders, for the beneficiaries. But under the medical questions, there's a red question mark. Well, that means I haven't properly completed that section. So I'm going to need to go back. You put in a little bit more information. Maybe I was going through the medical questions and it asked for the client's primary care physician, and they don't know what their doctor's address is. So they tell me, Will, I'm going to get back to you with the doctor's address because I know that you guys need that. I'll get back to you. Call you later tonight and I'll have it. That's okay. At the top of my iGo application, do you see where it says save? It's in that red box up there. I can save my application at any time. So I can save it, close my browser, close my computer. When my client calls me tomorrow with that information that I needed, I'm going to open this case right back up. I'll pick up right where I left off from, and we can get all the information in that we need. Once I've submitted everything I need, we're in good order. I've got all those green check marks. I'm going to lock the application and proceed to the signature process. It's that simple. All green check marks, everything is good. Once I lock the application, that information is set in stone. We're going to go ahead, have the client sign the application. I can't go back and change anything. Right now that we're signing, there's no changes that we can make. If I were to go make any changes, I would have to unlock the application and it would cancel the signature process. So that's what I would do. I'm going to click next and we're going to proceed to the signature process. You have two different ways that you can sign the application. You can do a wet signature or you can do an electronic signature. I don't see a world in which you would want to do the wet signature. With a wet signature, you print out all these forms, you put them in a big envelope, you mail them to Transamerica, you wait for us to receive it 7 days later. It's going to be slow. It's going to be tedious. I don't recommend it. Maybe if you're having major computer issues. electronic signature is the way to go. And you don't need to have like a tablet or your iPhone out in order to do the electronic signature. If you're on a desktop with someone, you can do a point and click. We have two different methods. One is in person, the other is remote. With in person, it's as simple as it sounds. We verify the client's identity. They click to sign. It's using a signature process called DocuSign. It's an industry standard, very, very easy. The other option is to use the remote signature. That's where we send an email to the client. They open up their email. It says, please sign this document. They again verify their identity. They click to sign. It sends back to you, the agent. You click to sign, and the application is then sent to Transamerica. So really, really easy. Highly, highly recommend that you use iGo when you have a case that has not been submitted, right? Again, let's say hypothetically that I save the case and I want to come back and pick it up. I'm going to go to that view my cases from the start. When I view my cases, I can see all of the cases that I currently have that have not yet been submitted. So for example, this one for Teresa, it says it's awaiting the agent e-signature. So, I probably got an email about it. I can go in and apply my signature because you can see the proposed insured, Teresa, she completed her signature. Or I would see application e-submitted, I think is what it says. Oh, well, good. That means that I properly sent it in, that my client sent everything in. It's been sent to Transamerica. The application was e-submitted. So you can see kind of what's going on from iGo on any cases. If you're wondering, has it been sent in? Did we not complete the signature yet? Where are we at? Can I pick that up where I left off? All of that information is right there. So we will wrap up here with a little bit on getting paid. When it comes to our advance structure, we're very, very competitive in how we pay our advances. We do a 40-60 commission structure. That means 40% of the commission is going to be paid when all of the advance criteria are submitted. And then the remaining 60% will be paid when the policy is issued and delivered. So if you are on a promotion run, your upline is on a promotion run, your downline is on a promotion run, you want to make sure you get this information in correctly. You want to know that the points are going to hit, that the commission is going to hit. We want to make sure that you send it in the right way then, in order to get the first 40% advance. Remember, it comes when the policy is submitted. It needs to be submitted the right way. We need to have the correct product, all the right forms, the signatures. Part of the reason why I recommend iGo. The second part, though, that's pretty important, you need to complete the payment information. You need to submit it with premium. So I filled out electronic banking drafting, electronic banking information. I've given the company authorization to draft, which is one of the questions that we ask. And we are going to take that first premium with the application. This is good for two reasons. One, you get paid that first 40% really quick. Number two, we issue something that's called a conditional receipt. Conditional receipt means that if anything were to happen to the client during the underwriting process, even though we haven't completed the underwriting process, as long as we would find them insurable at any rate, the coverage is there. So even though we haven't said yes yet, if the client were to pass away, the death benefit would be payable. So it's a good idea. If you're on the fence, send it in with the premium. And that just means that we'll issue the conditional receipt. The first 40% is paid. We do not pay in advance if the writing agent or the split agent is the owner, payer, or the insured. We also do not pay in advance if the payment mode is set up as a direct bill rather than an electronic bank draft. Similarly, for the second 60% advance, we need all of the delivery requirements to be received. So we've approved the policy, we've mailed it out to the client, we've mailed it to you. You're supposed to sign it. We have a packet. You sign it, you put the policy back in the packet, you send it to Transamerica. we've received all the delivery requirements, that's when the next advance will take place. The second 60%, again, kind of follows the same rules. It is not going to be paid if the writing or the split agent is the owner, payer, or the insured. Those policies instead pay as earned, which means the commissions are spread out over 12 months. And then if we do not have electronic banking information set up, it will pay as earned. So if we don't have it on electronic draft, but instead have a direct bill, we will not be able to pay the advance. So I hope this has been helpful information. If you have questions, you can put those in the chat. If not, we've got a couple of important lines for you here. Our new business team is really happy to help with any of the outstanding requirements. I'm trying to get the policy pushed through. I don't know what you need from me. Call new business. They're very, very helpful. 1-800-322-3796. You can also reach our sales desk team at the same number. They are option number 6. They will help you with the application if you don't know how to find certain forms. If you have a question on underwriting, you don't know if we can take the individual, give us a call. We're happy to help. And then lastly, transamerica.com/agent-central. That's where you will go to find our underwriting guide. It's your best friend. It's going to help a lot with kind of some of those hard questions that maybe need a little bit of support with. So I hope that this has been helpful information. I don't see any questions in the chat. If you have any, you can put those in now. If not, I thank you all for your time. Next week, we're going to go over at the same time how to manage your pending and your in-force policies using our websites. So I would encourage you to join us again next week for managing your business. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening.